Hello, and welcome back to the top 5 most haunted places in the world. There are few places in the United States that can claim more paranormal bona fides than Salem, Massachusetts. During the 1692 to 93 Salem witch trials, 200 people were tortured and convicted, and at least 20 were executed. Salem is also the birthplace of Nathaniel Hawthorne, author of the horror novel House of the Seven Gables, inspired by this massive saltbox Puritan home. Tales abound of witchcraft, family curses, maniacal laughter, footsteps, and the agitated ghosts of Pynchon and Mall family members who lived in but felt imprisoned by the house. This 73-room hotel has a very colorful history of guests, alive and dead. It was completed in 1927 with funding help from iconic Western writer Zane Grey. This beautifully appointed landmark is one of the oldest operational hotels in Arizona and has hosted such famous guests as John Wayne, who had some run-ins with the hotel ghosts, Alan Ladd, Gary Cooper, Humphrey Bogart, Zane Grey, Clark Gable, Walter Brennan, Barbara Stanwyck, Lee Marvin, Carol Lombard, Jane Russell, Bob Hope, Bing Crosby, and many others. Many guests report supernatural interactions. Room 305 is by far the most active, with a woman who was a longtime resident sitting in a rocking chair at the window, or the chair rocking by itself. Other activities include a screaming baby in the basement, the ghosts of 2 prostitutes who were thrown from room 306 and killed, and now place their hands over the mouths of sleeping visitors and attempt to suffocate them. The meat man in room 220, an eccentric who used to hang fresh meat from the chandelier. The elevator attendant whose whispering voice asks visitors, "Which floor?" His disembodied hand closes the doors, or his face appears in the mirror behind visitors as they leave the elevator. This sprawling behemoth of a house started out as a modest 8-room farmhouse, but ended up as a 24,000 square foot mansion with 160 rooms, 40 bedrooms, 10,000 windows, 2,000 doors, 13 bathrooms, 6 kitchens, 47 fireplaces, and 52 skylights. The heiress to the Winchester Repeating Arms fortune, Sarah Lockwood Party Winchester, lost her young daughter first to illness, then her husband to tuberculosis. Heartbroken, Sarah hired a psychic to reach out to her lost loved ones. The seer, supposedly channeling her dead husband, told her that her family had been killed by ghosts of Winchester gunshot victims. To appease the spirits, the soothsayer directed Sarah she must go west, buy a house, and continuously build onto it. If she ever stopped, she would die. She purchased an unfinished farmhouse in San Jose in 1884 and began feverish construction. 38 years later, and having spent $70 million in today's currency of continuous construction, she died in the 7-story mansion. She left an architectural oddity of labyrinthian proportions, full of ghosts, including that of her own troubled spirit. Today, the mansion is still owned by the Winchester estate and is open for tours. The 3rd floor is particularly active with paranormal activity. How much misery can one building contain? If misery and wasted life cause unsettled spirits, it is no wonder that the walls of this horrific structure house ghosts. Ironic, too, because originally the institution was built in 1863 as a state-of-the-art hospital, bright and cheery, intended to treat the mentally ill, Especially Civil War soldiers returned from the horrors of war, unable to cope as humanely and gently as possible. It was designed to house 250 patients, each with a large, bright, beautifully appointed room, and given the freedom to roam acres of gardens, farmland, and park-like surrounds. But within 20 years, with the aftermath of the Civil War and other economic and cultural societal ravages, the population of the institution tripled. Another reason the population exploded: husbands had the sole power to commit their wives, no matter the reason, and many did, leaving women for years or until they died. The idyllic facility was overrun, the budget stretched, the facility mismanaged, staff and patients in chaos. By the 1950s, the hospital had 2,600 patients, more than 10 times its capacity. When the Charleston Gazette newspaper did an expose on the asylum, the reporters and readers could not believe what they found. Patients in cages, others sleeping on the floor in their own feces, unimaginable filth and crowding. In a surgical area of the asylum, reporters found that hundreds of lobotomies were being performed by the famous Dr. Walter Freeman by hammering an ice pick type spike into a patient's eye socket to sever specific connective tissue in the brain. One of the most notorious and still unsolved mass axe murders in U.S. history occurred in this Queen Anne farmhouse in small town Iowa. On June 11th, 1912, sometime between midnight and 5 a.m., 8 people, including 6 children, were hacked to death by an axe as they lie sleeping in their beds. The bloody axe was left in a guest room next to a 4-pound slab of bacon the murderer had taken from the icebox. All the mirrors had been covered, and a partially eaten plate of food the murderer had made for himself remained after his horrific deeds. The murders were never solved, but years later were believed to the crimes of a mass serial murderer who killed more than 100 people with an axe, mostly farm families, across the United States, hopping freight trains as his mode of travel. The Velisca home is a vortex of strange paranormal activity, including apparitions, orbs, footsteps, scraping sounds, and groans. Groups can also stay overnight in the home, if they dare. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you enjoyed and want more content, please like the video and subscribe if you didn't. I'd love to hear why in the comments below. This has been the Fear Files.